Love.
Everyone wants it. Most people are looking for it, but few are taught how to actually find it. Not just the butterflies, not the fantasy. We're talking about real love. Love that's deep, fulfilling, and lasts longer than a weekend or a fleeting spark. And here's the truth most people miss. You don't find love by chasing it. You find it by becoming the kind of person who attracts it. Let that sink in. The search for love isn't about swiping endlessly on apps. It's not about dressing a certain way, learning clever lines, or trying to fit someone else's idea of perfect. You don't find love by searching for people to love you. You find it by learning to love yourself enough that the right person simply feels like a natural extension, not a missing piece. So many of us go out into the world with this underlying belief, I need someone to complete me. But love doesn't come from being incomplete. Love comes from overflow. When you're already full, already joyful, already standing tall in who you are, you don't need someone. You choose them. That's the difference between desperation and desire, between settling and selecting. The first step to finding love is this: fall in love with your own life. Not because you're giving up on romance, but because you're making space for someone to join a life that's already meaningful. What makes someone fall in love with you is not how badly you want it. It's not how much you text, how available you are, or how perfect you try to be. What draws people in is your energy, your standards, your boundaries, your sense of peace when you're alone. That's what's magnetic. You want to know why some people constantly attract drama, confusion, and emotional unavailability? Because they haven't yet healed the part of them that thinks chaos is love. If that's your story, rewrite it. Not by waiting for someone to save you, but by choosing yourself over and over again until it becomes second nature. Now, does love require effort? Of course. You have to be brave enough to show up, to be seen, to risk rejection. You have to give people the opportunity to love you. That means putting your heart out there, even if it's been bruised before. But you don't do it with your eyes closed. You do it with intention. You look for values, not just vibes. You connect through honesty, not illusion. You don't cling, you invite. You don't force, you flow. And most of all, you don't wait for someone to give you love. You start by being love. You become the person who brings warmth, who brings peace, who brings clarity, not confusion. That's how you find love. You become someone who's already living it. Then one day, someone walks into your life and realizes they've finally found it too. If you want to find love, the starting point isn't where do I meet the right person. It's not about perfect timing, dating apps, or even being in the right city. The real starting point is this: you have to become love before you go looking for it. That might sound abstract, but it's incredibly practical. Think about the energy most people bring to dating. It's full of longing, of looking to be chosen, of waiting for someone else to show up and complete the story. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When your approach to love is rooted in a sense of lack, you don't attract the love you want. You attract the love that matches your insecurity. People can feel when you're trying to get something from them instead of sharing something with them. Love that starts from desperation almost always ends in disappointment because it's built on a fragile foundation. Instead of asking, how do I get someone to love me? Ask, am I living a life that reflects love already? Are you showing up for yourself? Are you speaking to yourself with kindness? Are you treating your goals, your time, and your peace like they matter? When you begin to fill yourself up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you stop showing up to relationships with your hands out. You stop auditioning. You're not looking for someone to complete you anymore. You're simply looking for someone who complements the life you're already building. This is what creates real power in dating, because you're no longer on edge. You're not constantly worried about being liked, validated, or picked. You know your worth. You're bringing a whole vibrant, growing version of yourself into every interaction. And that's magnetic. You become love in the way you care for yourself when no one's watching. in the boundaries you hold, in the peace you protect. You become love when you show up for your friends, your passions, your goals, not because it'll impress someone, but because it's who you are. And ironically, that's when love tends to show up, when you've stopped chasing it from a place of emptiness and started embodying it from a place of fullness. When you become love, your energy changes. You attract differently. You stop settling for emotional breadcrumbs. You start recognizing what real connection feels like because you've built that connection with yourself first. So no, finding love doesn't start with dating strategies. It starts with you, not becoming perfect, not pretending to have it all figured out, but becoming so deeply rooted in your own value that love feels like something you share, not something you're starving for. That's the beginning. That's the foundation. And from there, real love becomes not only possible, but inevitable. There's something most people misunderstand about attraction. They think it's about doing more, saying the perfect things, showing up exactly right. But here's the truth. Your energy is what attracts, not your effort. Let that really settle in. The most magnetic people aren't the ones trying the hardest. They're the ones who walk into a room and don't need to prove anything. There's a calmness about them, an ease. And that ease doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from being at peace with themselves. That's the energy people are drawn to, not desperation, not performance, just truth. When you're trying to win someone, your energy changes. You become hyper aware of what they want. You start editing yourself. You say what you think they want to hear. You laugh a little harder. You overgive. And even if it looks like it's working, something in the dynamic always feels off because you're not showing up from your power. You're showing up from a need. But when your energy is grounded, when you already like yourself, when you know who you are, you don't have to try so hard. You become magnetic, not because you're pushing, but because you're aligned. You're not worried about being liked because you already like yourself. You're not obsessed with where is this going because you trust your own standards and values. You know what you bring to the table, and you're not afraid to eat alone if someone isn't bringing the same level of honesty and intention. And here's the shift that happens. When you stop chasing people and start being the person you'd want to date, your energy changes. You start moving differently. You make eye contact differently. You speak differently. You're no longer trying to impress. You're just expressing. That's the difference between anxiety and authenticity. You don't get there by pretending to be confident. You get there by doing the internal work, by healing the parts of you that once needed approval and building the habits that make you proud of who you are. It's not glamorous, but it's magnetic. And when you do meet someone, you're not walking on eggshells. You're not overanalyzing every message. You're not trying to make yourself smaller so they don't leave. You're simply bringing your energy, your truth, and your wholeness, and letting the right people recognize that. So stop focusing on effort and start focusing on energy. Because the most attractive thing in the world isn't perfect words or perfect looks. It's someone who knows who they are and isn't afraid to show up with that truth. And when your energy is aligned with your self-worth, love finds you. Not because you needed it, but because you were already ready to receive it. Here's a truth that most people overlook. You want to find love, fall in love with your life first. Not because you're giving up on love, not because you've decided to just focus on yourself as a form of escape, but because building a life you genuinely enjoy is the most powerful foundation for any relationship you'll ever have. People spend so much time waiting for someone to text back, waiting for someone to finally commit, waiting for the right person to show up and make them feel alive again. But in all that waiting, they put their joy on hold, their growth on hold, their passions on hold. But let me ask you something. Would you want to date someone who's just waiting for you to show up and give their life meaning? Of course not. Attraction is built on momentum. It's created by energy, by movement, by watching someone who is already in love with the life they're creating. When you meet someone who lights up when they talk about their goals, someone who's working on something that matters to them, someone who has meaningful friendships and real values, you don't just see them as attractive, you see them as inspiring. And that's what love is drawn to. Not emptiness, not boredom, not passivity, but passion, purpose, self-respect. When your life has meaning with or without a partner, you stop choosing people from a place of loneliness. You start choosing from a place of alignment. And that's how you avoid wasting your time in half-hearted relationships that feel okay but don't feed your soul. Here's the truth. When you're in love with your own life, you bring better energy into every interaction. You're not asking, will you please like me? You're asking, does this fit the beautiful, growing, evolving life I'm already living? That's a completely different filter. And it's powerful. So take that trip. Even if you're single, start the business, dive into the creative project, build friendships that nourish you, treat your body like it deserves to be taken care of. Love your own company so much that anyone who steps into your world feels like a bonus, not a bandage. Because when you create a life that feels full, you're no longer hunting for love to fix you. You're inviting love to join you, and the love that accepts that invitation, that's the kind that lasts. That's the kind that adds to your life, not distracts you from it. The truth is, love will not complete you. It was never supposed to, but it will amplify you when it meets you at your highest level of self. And that level starts today with your life, with your choices, with the decision to stop waiting and start becoming. Let's clear something up right now. Real love doesn't feel like chaos. It's not confusing. It's not hot one minute and cold the next. It's not guessing where you stand or trying to decode mixed signals. And if that's the version of love you've been used to, then I want you to hear this loud and clear. That's not love. That's instability disguised as passion. We have been conditioned to think that love should feel like a high, like drama, like constant butterflies. But those butterflies, often, they're anxiety in disguise. And when we mistake anxiety for excitement, we end up chasing people who make us feel uncertain because we think that means it's real. But real love feels different. It feels safe, not boring safe. And there's a big difference between the two. Safety in love means you know where you stand. It means you're not walking on eggshells, afraid that saying the wrong thing will make them disappear. It means you're not constantly overanalyzing texts, playing games, or hiding your feelings out of fear you'll seem too much. It means clarity. It means that when someone says they care, their actions match. It means they show up consistently, not just when it's convenient, not only when they want something, but because they value you, because they want to build with you. You want to know the number one sign someone is emotionally available? Consistency, not charm, not chemistry, not a deep connection on the second date. It's what they do after the excitement wears off. It's how they treat you when there's nothing to gain. Just the day-to-day presence of showing up and choosing you again and again. If you've been conditioned to chase love, that feels confusing. I want to invite you to raise your standard. Don't settle for the emotional roller coaster. Don't romanticize mixed signals. Don't stay just because the highs feel intoxicating, because the crash after the high is always painful. And here's what happens when you stop chasing chaos. You create space for clarity to enter. You give yourself permission to experience a love that's peaceful, grounded, and real. A love that doesn't make you question yourself, but makes you feel more yourself. The drama you think you miss. That's just your nervous system craving the unpredictability it's used to. But peace can be just as addicting once you get used to it. So if it's love you want, look for the one who brings calm. The one who makes your life better, not harder. The one who doesn't spark panic, but inspires peace. Because the real thing doesn't make you chase. It makes you feel seen. It feels like home. Not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. And from that place, everything else becomes possible. One of the most powerful decisions you'll ever make in your love life is this. Stop raising your effort and start raising your standards. That shift will change everything. So many of us are conditioned to believe that the more we give, the more we try, the more we accommodate, the more lovable we'll be. And it makes sense. We live in a world that celebrates hustle, sacrifice, and selflessness. But in love, effort without standards is a trap. You can give and give and give and still feel empty. You can be the most loyal, the most thoughtful, the most accommodating person in the world and still find yourself undervalued, unappreciated, or abandoned. Why? Because effort doesn't mean anything when it's poured into the wrong place. We think, if I'm just patient enough, kind enough, understanding enough, they'll finally see my worth. But love isn't a reward for endurance. It's not something you earn by putting up with poor treatment. And your value is not measured by how much of yourself you're willing to sacrifice. Let me be clear, love does take effort, but it has to be mutual. It has to come from both sides. Otherwise, your effort turns into a form of begging, and you weren't made to beg, you were made to choose. That's where standards come in. Raising your standards doesn't mean you expect perfection. It doesn't mean you have a checklist a mile long. It means you have a baseline for how you allow yourself to be treated. It means you don't entertain someone who's inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, or unclear about what they want. It means you know what peace feels like, and you won't trade it for chaos, no matter how good the chemistry is. Your standard is your protection. It's the line that says, I respect myself too much to lower my energy just to keep someone in my life. And once you set that line, you stop settling for almost available, almost ready, almost consistent, almost love. Here's the beautiful part. When you raise your standards, your life gets quieter. You might lose people. You might even feel lonely for a time, but that space you create, that's sacred. Because only the people who truly see you will reach you there. You no longer attract people who want your effort. You attract people who match your energy, people who aren't scared of your strength, people who see your worth and meet you where you already are. And when you stop trying harder and start requiring better, love doesn't feel like a struggle anymore. It feels like alignment, like ease, like two people choosing each other fully and freely. So stop overgiving, stop chasing, stop explaining your worth. Let your standard be the filter. Let peace be the goal. Because the love you're looking for, it's already looking for you, but it can only find you when you stop settling for less.
If you truly want to find love,
here's what you need to know. You have to be brave enough to show up honestly. In a world full of filters, games, and emotional armor, honesty might seem like a risk. Vulnerability might feel terrifying, but it's the only real path to love that lasts. So many people go into dating like it's a performance. They present a version of themselves they hope will be accepted. They hide their fears, their dreams, even their opinions just to be liked. But here's the problem. When you hide the real you, even if someone chooses you, they're not choosing you. They're choosing a mask. And eventually that mask cracks. Real love starts the moment you're willing to be seen. Not the polished, perfect version of you, but the human version. The one with insecurities. The one who sometimes overthinks. The one who's still growing, still healing, still figuring things out. That version is worthy too. In fact, that version is where real connection begins. Being honest doesn't mean spilling your entire life story on a first date. It doesn't mean bleeding your heart out to someone who hasn't earned your vulnerability. What it does mean is showing up with clarity, with intention, with the courage to express who you really are and the boundaries to walk away if it's not met with respect. It means saying, this is what I'm looking for. It means asking the real questions, not just the fun ones. It means not pretending to be casual when your heart wants something meaningful. It also means accepting that not everyone will be able to meet you there, and that's okay, because the right person isn't scared by your honesty. They welcome it. They lean in. They want to understand you, not just impress you. They see your openness as a sign of strength, not weakness. There's a peace that comes with showing up fully. You don't have to play the waiting game, wondering, did I say too much or should I have acted less interested? When you operate from honesty, you can walk away from any situation knowing you honored yourself, that you stood in truth, not fear. And here's the irony. The more honest you are, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to real, to unfiltered to people who are grounded in themselves. Your honesty becomes your light, and it attracts people who are ready for something real. So don't be afraid to say what you mean. Don't be afraid to be warm, direct, and emotionally available. The ones who can't handle that weren't meant to stay, but the one who's meant for you. They'll recognize your truth and offer you theirs in return. Because love doesn't require perfection. It requires presence and the courage to say, here I am, this is me. If you see me, great. If not, I'll keep walking and keep shining.